Well, the ABCs of the South by Southwest Film Festival are Austin, barbecue, and cinema. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore, and I'm normally joined by Anthony Raybench, but he is not here with me in Austin, Texas for South by. I'm sure he'll make it here someday. But I am super excited to, first of all, see tons of movies here, reconnect with a lot of friends. I've already ran into a bunch already. Reacquaint myself with 6th Street. I have been to the Jackalope a couple times, one of my favorite dive bars there. There's an interesting pirate theme at the Jackalope, which I highly recommend that place. First of all, I haven't been here in years. It's been more than 5 years since I've been to South by Southwest, and things have changed for the better. There are more venues, which is awesome. There's the app, the South by Southwest Go app, which allows you to make reservations to screenings. I think that cuts down on lines, makes things more efficient, and everything about South by. I think the biggest complaint about South by Southwest is it just keeps getting bigger, and perhaps it's gotten too big. I'm actually at the convention center, convention center here in Austin, where you register. There's a trade show with all sorts of exhibits for the tech and interactive side of the event. It's now tech. It's education, comedy, the film festival, of course, music. I'm here with multi-purposes for film, of course, because I'm here with Film Threat as a film nerd, but the tech part of the show is also of great interest to me. There's a lot of amazing presentations with regard to growing your website, scaling your audience, all things of interest to nerds in this space. So I love this town. There's the sort of a creative spirit that just permeates everything about Austin, from just everything, the art, the fashion, the music, just down to like some of the signs that I've seen in the bars and in the bathrooms. There's a wry wit that just seems to pour over everything here in Austin, Texas. I'm excited also. This is the first of what will be our daily episodes of the Film Threat Podcast. I'll just be reporting from here and telling you about films I've seen, interviewing filmmakers. And on this first episode, I'm really excited to talk to the filmmakers behind Wobble Palace. Now, Wobble Palace is an independent comedy, I think, is the best way to describe it, and it's something that is, to me, feels like something that would premiere at South by Southwest. It's low budget, indie, very passionate. It's romantic. It's also sad. And it's the kind of, I'd almost put it in kind of the mumblecore, which mumblecore is a sort of subgenre of indie film that really, I believe, I don't know if it didn't necessarily come out of Austin, Texas, but let's say it was championed at South by Southwest. So I think a lot of people feel that South by had a lot to do with the popularity of mumblecore films. And I would kind of put this in that group in a sense. It really feels like one of those kinds of movies. But I was fortunate enough to talk to the filmmakers. Eugene Kotlyarenko. It's a Russian name. I can't pronounce it, but I promise you in the interview, he will teach me how to pronounce it. And so I talked to Eugene, who's the writer-director behind Wobble Palace, and his co-star, Dasha, also another Russian name that I can't pronounce. I'm going to let them explain it when I talk to them. But it's a fun film in the sense that it's it's a story we've seen before, but it's told in an incredibly original way. And that's what I think makes Eugene a filmmaker that, I'm actually kind of embarrassed to say that I really just discovered him, and he's made several films previous to this one, so but I'm happy that I had an opportunity to talk to Eugene and Dasha here at South by.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, I'm Chris Gore.
Eugene.
Eugene, yeah. Pleasure to meet you.
Hi, I'm Dasha.
Dasha, oh, pleasure. Yeah. Would you guys like to sit right
that
here?
Seems cool.
That's cool.
King and queen of the table.
Yeah. In here.
Hey, Eugene.
Hi,
Cool.
Nice to meet you.
Cool.
Hi, Dasha.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
So I feel like after a lot of people get to see this movie, they will definitely know your names.
You think?
Yes. The name Eugene
Kotlyarenko.
Kotlyarenko. Am I saying it correctly?
More or less.
Kotlyarenko?
Eugene Kotlyarenko.
Kotlyarenko.
Yeah.
And
Dasha Nekrasova.
and I'm going to guess Russian.
Yes, that is correct.
I'm actually from the Ukraine, Odessa, Ukraine, and Dasha is from Minsk, Belarus.
I was born in Belarus.
But Soviet Union, Russian, sort of colonized states. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, welcome to the Film Threat Podcast.
Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Yeah, here at
It's good
South.
to be here.
Yeah, here at South by Southwest. I gotta congratulate you on this movie because I've seen a bunch of the films here at South by, and Wobble Palace has to be one of the most original, unique, strange, lovable, sad, and emotional films that I've seen here. And I think it also, and this is just verified also by the fact that a guy who, saw the movie without me in the room, we saw it separately, felt exactly the same way about that I did, that it's just incredibly odd and original in a sweet way.
Who's that guy?
Well, it's Alan Ng who wrote, he wrote our review on filmthreat.com.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so you should read that review. Your publicist should be on top of it.
Yeah, we read the review.
Oh, good.
We very appreciate it very much.
Well, I have to ask
That's a
you.
good review. I like what he said. He said, and now we're going on from Ant-Man to, he's like, it's hard to impress me. The last movie I really loved was Ant-Man, and now we're going to Wobble Palace. And I'm like, fuck yeah. I love that. That's a good evolution. That's a good legacy there.
But what's interesting about the film, it starts out just right in the middle with your character, Eugene. We really spend more time with you in the first chunk of the film where we get to kind of know you, and we really don't even know what's going on. I mean, I don't want to spoil too much, but like at the beginning, there's sort of a Tinder hookup, and I'm thinking it never happens that fast. That's just, I mean, it can, but that is like very rare. And then you kind of see where it leads. And what I love about it too is that all the oddness pays off. It's all for a reason. It's all intentional, and even the look and design, and even your oddly, your hair that changes throughout the film. So can you tell me about like what went into the development of this?
Sure.
And just right up top, because it's so unique and different.
Sure. The structure of the film is something that was like a gamble, but one that I really wanted to take. I knew it would be risky to start in this way. First off, you start on Saturday, then you jump back a day, then you jump 2 days forward in terms of structure. And there are these like crisscrossing moments that like sort of link you back and reorient the audience. And it was cool seeing it for the first time with an audience yesterday, feeling those things sort of pay off. I'd never known whether they would. I hoped they would. The editor and I sort of labored over it. So that was really fun. Like, like the Steadicam shot in the middle where she finds me and stuff. Like, everyone's like, oh, yeah. Like, I don't want to spoil it either. But, I was concerned, because, like, I think the Jane character that Dasha plays is so awesome. And my character, in a way, is pretty repellent, like it's like this critique, this takedown of this very contemporary, like disgusting man, desperate man. And I was like, oh no, like what if people are so turned off that they don't make it to the Jane part or something like that. But at the same time, it was really important for me to make a movie that felt like divisive in this way. It was divided, right? The structure, because people develop feelings, strong feelings. And like, I'm the sort of person, I watch a film and like, I think the filmmaking, I hope, is strong enough that people trust the filmmaker to know what the fuck they're doing, right? So if you can trust me and the rest of my team to feel like, okay, this is going somewhere, I think it's probably going to work, and so I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, even the fact that like, why is this hot chick just coming over this kind of like ugly dude's house, and like kind of she's going back to the bedroom with him? Okay, that seems to make no, but like it does obviously make sense because we all have our agendas in love and life, and you don't really know where people are coming from till you see where they're coming from. And I think that's kind of part of the movie. Like, we don't even know ourselves in a way until we have to reach a point of bottom, like reaching bottom or desperation. I think the movie's about that, right? Like kind of emotional, romantic bottom.
Well, I think that's also, I think, why it's so relatable. It's really about loneliness or feelings of, being unlovable.
Dash, you can answer that one.
I agree very much so. We were pretty lonely. I was pretty lonely when we were making the movie. It had a sort of a painful genesis.
Well, do you want to talk about the painful genesis?
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, like, just Dash and I had recently been through different...
Pretty traumatic breakups.
Yeah.
So both of you went through breakups separately that were traumatic, and so this was, I mean, in a way, artist therapy. So was this akin to that?
I don't know that artist therapy, I mean, like, yeah, it's like a purge, right? Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't think it would be interesting or like entertaining. For me, it's like I'm not super process oriented, honestly, very like results oriented. So I could see that this was in the air. I knew people who were like engaged, who were like literally started living together and breaking up. And like it happened to me. I started living with someone, broke up, and it was really toxic. Felt bad. And I was like, this is happening. Like people,
and that feeling of being trapped.
Like, oh, we have a great deal in the house, or like, oh, it's just too convenient. We have dinner, watch a movie, like kind of have sex once a month and go to sleep. It just like feels like, oh, that's a good system for the rest of my life, I guess. But like maybe I can cheat sometimes, and there's a lot of technology in the movie too, and I think when you're feeling desperate and pathetic and like just looking for an escape, technology can feel like an escape, but it can also feel like this horrific, distorting mirror too, and it like makes you feel like you're trapped more and stuff. But one of the reasons why I really wanted to work with Dash, and I think when we had our breakups and stuff, I think we became really close. It's just friends, we're hanging out all the time. But Dasha has a great Twitter personality. I don't know if you've checked it out, but she's a really great Twitter. And I was like, I really want the movie, there's parts of the movie, I don't know if you've noticed, but for instance, my part is all handheld, right? Sean Price Williams, we talked about how to make the movie have a distinct look. So my section is all handheld, and it's almost like the camera's like searching and kind of trying to follow this wily character. And her part is all composed, all on sticks or Steadicam. And her part also has, this other element that mine doesn't have, which is this voiceover, right? And this interiority. Mm-hmm. Like my interiority is very extroverted. Right, like I'm talking to myself out loud, and like fucking diarrhea at the mouth. And then she's like, very perceptive and has a strong interior voice. And I was just like, oh, I just hope we could get like the brilliance of your Twitter into this character, And we spent a long time doing those VOs and like recording them writing them, rewriting them, recording them over and over. And I think it adds a real depth to like these feelings of desperation, because clearly my character's getting rejected all the time, as it should be, and it's funny, whatever, clownish. But she's going through a different sort of thing, right? Because I feel like your character is very desired in a way, but still like rejected but desired.
Yeah, well, we talked a lot about finding if your sort of plight was kind of this desperate male horniness, what sort of like an analogous like female kind of anxiety would be. Which is where we sort of developed Jane's preoccupation with being basic. Mm-hmm. Early in her portion of the movie, someone makes like an offhanded comment about her being basic, and she really like develops like a neuroses about it, and it like emerges in the film.
It's driving her all the time, and how she interacts with people and how she thinks about herself. And I think that's what we're doing a lot of the time with our phones and social media and stuff, where we're projecting a certain identity out there, but it's constantly being re-examined and reimagined, and also like re-assaulted by people out there, and you don't actually know what people are thinking. I'm sitting here like waiting for reviews, and I'm like, but that's like what happens to like normal people now too. You literally just live your life, and you're just waiting for the likes to roll or not roll in, because like you're getting reviewed for being, and I haven't really seen that nuance kind of explored, although I know everyone more or less experienced it to some extent. If you're 15, you probably experience it like exponentially, and whatever, normal people also to a lesser extent. So I wanted the film to definitely dive into that. I think both of our characters go through that in different ways, analogous ways.
Well, modern relationships have all been complicated by apps. It is a double-edged sword, right? We can curate a certain persona out into the world, the photos where you look the best, good hair days, or in your character's case, bad hair days.
That was a good look for him.
Oh my God, I love the thing where you have this really long hair, but then you sort of pull it forward, and it's kind of a pompadour, but it looks just awful.
It's called
the floating toupee.
The floating toupee. It's called the floating toupee. It was a style that I actually rocked for a second in real life, thinking like, this makes sense, And then you take a step back and you realize, I am an insane delusional character who should portray this element in the film. And that's actually like a driving force behind a lot of the people I work with, like Vishwan Valandi, who's in my last film, One for Cloud, who's in this as Ravi, her main love interest. He's just a guy where like when we interact, I'm like, oh, that should be in a movie. Like this morning, me and Vish were sharing a bed, and then Dasha's in the other room, and she came in and she's like, he's wearing like this Blue Devils sweatshirt in bed, and
bottomless.
and she's like, you sleep in that? And he's like, yeah. And then he like pulls off the sheets and he's like not wearing anything underneath, and he's like, I call it the Donald Duck, because it's blue on top, nothing on the bottom. And then she was like, I call that the Pooh Bear. And then I'm like, that should be in a movie. That's pretty good.
Technically, I went to a strange party in LA once where someone had that. They were basically dressed with a vest and a hat and
bottoms.
Yes. The Donald Duck. The Donald Duck, the no bottoms. So, but
I'll say one thing. If I put that into a scene at like a party, I would be like, that's annoying or something. Or like, I would watch it and I'd be like, that's annoying. But if you put that like a guy waking up in bed and then someone's like, let's go, and he goes like, it's like, what are you doing? And like, it just feels like it's part of like, the life. Feels like the fabric of life in this weird way, and like, you watch like this film or maybe some of my last films and you're like, oh, these characters, they're quirky or they're like weird or something. But like, everyone is weird. Everyone does weird shit. And like, that's the stuff that's interesting to me. Not when you go out into the world as like a performative whatever because you want attention, because that's what we're in, attention world, right? But it's like the things that we do in private that we're kind of embarrassed about or we think is silly. Like, that's what's interesting to me. And that's why I like working with new actors or like non-professional actors, because they're not guarded and they do have so many interesting things about themselves that they could put out there, but they don't, maybe they're scared or maybe they don't know they could put it out there. And I'm like, that's the interesting thing, the thing that you're uncomfortable about.
And there's a thread throughout the film too that I thought was very effective, which was the use of text messages and screens. So you'll see a character on screen using a device, and then you'll see what they're typing on the other side of the screen, so you get this sort of dual layer going on. And there's even a thing, the way the movie opens, where you're just scrolling through a huge, long text thread, which I've done, and we've all done, and then you see the random photos. There's like, okay, there's some nudity shots, there's together shots, there's all these, it's the kind of things that turn up when you've had a long relationship with someone. Here's the pictures, the things we've shared, and the conversations we've had. I thought that was just an amazing device to open the film. And then it's a thread that kind of carries through as devices are used. I mean, is that where a lot of the inspiration came from, was just like how modern relationships have been impacted by these devices? Because it is, it doesn't, and the great thing is what I love is it doesn't dominate the movie. It is a thread, but but I'd love to hear both of your comments, because especially you being so popular on Twitter. So, maybe you have some insights on that, because it is, as you said, like, it's all judgment. I've certainly had my share of the tweets and the social posts they loved and the ones they hated and rejected and hated me for. So, but I love that your character is so unafraid to just, bare soul and everything. But just comments on social media and how it's like changed things.
Well, yeah, we've developed sort of like a digital, like, almost like an archaeology, like that opening sequence of, I do that all the time, is I go through like old conversations with like lovers and almost like to the beginning, and that's like where the thing stops, is like this genesis, this first moment, this first interaction that seems
full of hope.
Full of hope,
And
yeah.
and things are going to be peachy
And
keen.
then that just deteriorates.
Yeah, it's a nice timeline. I'm glad you say it doesn't dominate the film. And you're asking, like, is this kind of what drove the film, where it came from? And, like, no. Like, what drove the film is this sort of, like, painful things we were going through, and what I noticed about, like, whatever politics and culture and, like, cultural politics and what we went through in our relationships and stuff. But I would never step forward into making a movie about modern life without incorporating these things. I never have in my past films, and I wouldn't here either. And, we framed, like, the shots where, like, I'm on going through, like, that manic Tinder thing where I don't get the, where it goes a little bit nutty. I was saying to Sean, like, who's the DP, I was like, okay, leave, like, a third of the screen negative space. Like, we're going to frame it wide, or we're going to frame my face, but leave it so that it's the third negative. And everyone's just watching me text on the phone, and they're like, this is so boring. What the fuck? What are you doing, Eugene? I'm like, no, don't worry. This is going to be good, because I had it, like, planned out in my head how it would look and what we would write out, And, that stuff all seems really important, really crucial to how we understand romance now. So, like, to exclude it is ridiculous and kind of not ignorant, but it's disrespectful to audiences, because it's like, it's just silly.
Well, I think it creates a problem for modern screenwriters today, which is how do you even tell so many stories, whether it's an action movie or a romance or people relating, without including devices. But I think the way that you did it, that it's a device, but it's also about, like, what's being communicated. That's what it's about. So
I tried something like that 10 years ago in my first film, Zeros and Ones, and
I think I remember that movie. That played here, right?
No,
did it?
It played in Maryland Film Fest.
I must have seen it somehow. It's very familiar. Zeros and Ones.
The guy was his computer, and the whole thing is like an operating system and has different apps and different browsers and games, and you all watch it through screens. And we shot it with 5 cameras. It was very ambitious, and it was a point where, like, that movie starts actually with him writing an email and rewriting the opening titles, and then putting it into his drafts folder. And I think at that moment in 2008 when we made it, and then it took 3 years to make, so let's say 2011 when it came out, still maybe just the general public kind of didn't have the nuanced feel for what it's like to, like, think about something, then, like, delete it, and then, like, like, it landed. It's with some people, but not with others. Now, watching someone just, like, delete, like, a word because of how it would come off feels very relatable, So this doesn't seem like a cool gimmick or like some accessory or some window dressing to the film. It feels very central, but it's not the driving force. It's just there, like it is in life, But it looks good, right? Like, it looks cool. Like, people haven't figured out how to do it. They film the phone from, like, a 3/4 angle, and they light it, and they try to, like, have, like, Meryl Streep's fingers typing. Or they do some
kind of, like, augmented, like, text popping up.
Right.
Yeah, and whatever. Everyone's trying it out, right, and figuring it out. But for me, the most important thing, like, is clarity, right? So when we did Zeros and Ones, I was looking at Renaissance paintings all the time, because you direct where people look, right? Like, a painter always knows how to direct where people look. So this thing too, like, the texts usually that you're looking at are supposed to be lined up with where the character's eyes are, because an audience is drawn to, like, a character's eyes generally, So, like, it's very nuanced, like, kind of how to get it right, because there's a lot of ways to get it wrong, because people, even though they're so advanced now, it's like you got to look at the screen and the actor, and
Well, I'm curious how much of the film also was scripted, and then how much there was improv, because some of it clearly had to be scripted. Because of the use of the screens and whatnot. But then some of it just felt so organic and so natural. So could you offer some insight into that?
I don't know if we did any scripting.
No, we did.
Are you really?
No. Like,
that's surprising.
No. If you look back so what I do for this film and the last one, right, is I write out.
We wrote the outline.
Yeah, it's like a 30-page outline. But if you look at it, there's tons of the lines that are in the movie are in that. It's just presented in, like, a much more, like, off the cuff way. You know, like, it's just a faster way to work, and it's a better way to work for me, especially because you can find things. Because Dasha does say incredible stuff all the time, and Vish and Elisha, who plays her friend, and the dates that I have, some of them are non-professionals, and some of them are professionals who are just cool and good, smart. So that's the best way to work with those people in the sort of framework that I have. So yeah, I like it to feel fresh, and Sean liked it too, the DP. You know him? He shot like Good Time and
oh wow,
and he had Marjorie Prime and Third Street. Those were his 3 films that came out this year. And he's in France right now, and he shot a lot of great movies. I like Frownland is an amazing film, and Listen Up Philip. He shot a lot of really good movies, so I was happy to work with him for the first time on this. And I think we found a cool language, and you know, like. Yeah, we just had, when we did color correction, we were thinking of weird things that I love too, like movies that aren't rom-coms, like White of the Eye and Shuji Terayama films that were like in the air. So, but yeah, we found a lot of stuff, but it definitely is obviously structurally all planned out, right. And just key lines, like a lot of, are there, but like Vish and Dasha and stuff, they just make it better, and I like that. So I work with them.
I'm curious also because the film is, I mean, it's about your character's relationship. You're in a polyamorous relationship, which has its share of problems. So where did that, I mean, that has also, I think, become more, people become more aware of that kind of relationship, I think, at least in the mainstream. I mean, I have a lot of friends. It was so familiar to me just having friends that are in, because it doesn't take place, is it like, it's like Silver Lake area, kind of? Am I?
It takes place in Chinatown.
That's right. Chinatown, which is right in that whole, like, I know, I feel like when I was watching, I feel like, oh my God, I know these characters. These characters are friends of mine. Like, I know people just like that. It's very LA, very much in that poly scene. And, you know, so where did all that come from? And is that, I don't want to delve too personally, whatever you're willing to share.
Sure.
And
well, I'd been in an open relationship before, and it's a complicated thing to negotiate. I didn't really go into it willingly, which is like something that my character says in like a funny way. It definitely, I don't know anything about the poly scene or anything, but I definitely did have a date with like a Tinder date with someone who had a adventurous sexual profession, like, you know, like one of my dates in the film. So then I thought that was like fascinating, and all sorts of stuff, you know, is modified from reality largely, but, you know, it's a springboard for things that you write about. But, you know, all this sort of stuff like gentrification in Chinatown and like feeling very basic as like a cis hetero white woman and stuff, like all these things, and like Clinton, I'm with her, and like Trump, what a like fucking asshole, like he'll never win, like all this stuff that was like in the air, that was like in the air I felt like we were like in a moment, like, and we still are like, kind of in this very revolutionary cultural moment, and like much like the technology that like I would be remiss to ignore, it would seem stupid to talk about like you know, they're the two. Again, I don't want to ruin the movie, but there's like 2 nightmares. They're kind of minor things in the film, right? And they're both Trump-related nightmares. And like, I'd had those, and like my editor had those. People
I still have them.
But now the nightmare is the reality, and whatever. It's every day there's like a new cool shit show that is horrible to some segment of the population. And, So
well, we started writing the movie prior to the election. Yeah. And we I at least was like so sure that Hillary was going to win, like it didn't even enter my mind.
As was everyone.
Yeah, we all were, which was part of it.
The flashback scene, the flashback 2012, where our characters meet in line to vote, we shot on election day. At an actual polling station.
And also the Trump, like running in where we're like chanting Trump, Trump, that was also at a polling station and stuff. They kept asking us to like leave. But
that was some of my favorite stuff to actually do. That felt like pretending it's 2012 in 2016.
You know, where the guys like kind of proto-alt-right trolling me about Obama and stuff. That was like in the line in 2016. That felt cool to me too.
It felt like political theater or something.
Yeah, I thought of like medium cool when we were doing it that day. I was like, oh yeah, this will be good, and like maybe we'll get it. But then that night
we found out that Trump won.
It was like super devastating, and it was surreal and crazy. And I was like, wow, well, like we really need to make the rest of the movie, because we did that before we had raised fully the financing. So we were just we shot on Halloween, which is when a lot of Halloween stuff is shot, and we shot on Election Day, and then we filmed the actual movie a few weeks later. But we just kept going with that sort of, we knew it, right? We knew that the moment before the election is so different. So that's what we wanted to capture too.
Did you steal those locations?
No, we got permits and all that stuff. Probably.
I don't know.
Producer here. I don't know. Yeah, you have to ask our producer.
I was gonna say the look on your face it tells me different.
Well, I just don't remember most of this stuff.
Ooh, even better. Wow, you sound like you're testifying in front of a Senate subcommittee. I don't remember.
All I mean is that what I would say is a lot of times people ask me production questions. And these productions, I try to do them as quick as possible and in the most efficient possible way. And I would say that if you're thinking oh my God, I can't make my movie because there's all these obstacles, every obstacle is an invitation for you to be creative and just to make something happen. Every time you're oh, I can't get the red cam, you have a fucking 4K camera on your cell phone probably. Why don't you shoot a movie with that? You should and you could, and I have, and it's fun, and every obstacle is necessity is the mother of invention. So if you don't have a permit, there's all sorts of things the Chinese food restaurant, all sorts of stuff film is full of beautiful accidents, and hopefully people pick up on that energy and they have a good time with you and it feels alive and fresh. And those are sorts of movies I like, and hopefully I try to make movies like that.
Well, I just think that you hit the two things that I think for an independent film to succeed in terms of production value is casting, which great casting, and then also locations. It makes it feel bigger. And so I think that, yes, I mean, I have no idea what the budget was or what your production plan was or whatnot, but it really looks bigger than it was. And I know that filmmakers now, there's 2 complete feature films that were shot at Disneyland, right?
Yeah.
So
did you see that one? I wanted to see Escape from Tomorrow, right?
It was, that one's okay. I haven't seen this. I haven't seen the second one. The second one is about Walt's brain. I only saw a story about it. I have yet to see this film.
Okay.
But I just think that there are lessons for other indie filmmakers to take away. Not just don't use your obstacles as an excuse to not make a film, which is mostly money is the excuse that filmmakers use.
People come up with all sorts of obstacles and excuses not to do something. LA, I lived in LA for 10 years. I always met people who are working on commercial sets, because I have to take jobs too sometimes, and I'm okay, what's up? What do you do? Because I want to talk to people about films. I want to talk about movies, movie making, because you don't know who the other geniuses are. You just want to meet other cool people who are doing good things, desperate to always meet people like that. And they're oh yeah, I wanted to make movies, but it's too hard. So now I just have this cookie sheet job where I am a grip, whatever. It's just makes me, it's depressing. If you want to do something, if you have a story to tell, you should tell it. It's so democratized now. It's and one result of that is that great, more voices are getting out there, and that's awesome. That's the best result of it. But there should be even more voices. The doors are open, and anyone who's not doing what they want to do is literally making excuses. But I'm with you. Don't go forward unless you have a good cast, and don't go forward unless you really care, because this stuff is hard. It's not easy, but it's doable if you care.
Well, I also enjoy the fact that you touch on so many things in the movie. I mean, obviously, that's clearly about the relationship, but it's also about everything that's happening in the zeitgeist. I mean, even talking about, being white and the, not that we should feel sorry for white people. I'm not saying this, but you call out a lot of things in the film. I just thought that it was so smart and done in such a clever and honest way.
Definitely don't think we should be sorry for white people.
No, that's no.
At all. I think white people have, in America have held the reins of power for such a long time. It's pathetic. And Dasha's character says that. How can someone be so boring and so quirky in terms of white people? It's that's what it is. That's the identity relationship that probably any perceptive white person in America more or less has with themselves. You know, like, the cultural reckoning that's happening is necessary and good, and like, you have to like resolve that, like, you know, for yourself, like in your own personhood, and especially in this moment where our identities are so under examination. Every word, every tweet, every image that we put out there is so under examination. It's like exponentially so if you like have privilege in this culture. And yeah, the movie does touch on that, and you know, and it's like a nuance too, because Dasha and I are both immigrants. We're both like, you know, like, you wouldn't know that necessarily talking to us, but like, whatever, like, our parents, like, you know, took like 3 jobs and like all sorts of stuff. That doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, like, it was important for us to like assert our like identity bond, like, you know, because we would go out sometimes as friends and like speak in Russian, like, you know, and like, yeah, and that does alienate you from the culture in a certain way too, like growing up in like foreign households where your parents don't have any American friends, and you know, like, you feel weird in school because you're foreign, you feel weird at home because you're American, like all those things are part of our identities. And so like, it felt like good to me that all the music in the movie is in Russian, like we have those conversations in Russian, we have the theme song
I really appreciate the Russia stuff in light of the like Russia collusion too.
Yeah,
like for me, I think it takes on almost like a subliminal quality in the movie, because it's like we talk in Russian only sometimes, and it is like stuff like the music. It's one of those nice things that's like revealed to you.
Yeah. My grandfather was Russian. My grandmother was Polish. So I was teased. The Polish jokes were big in Detroit. Let's just say that, where I grew up. So I thought it was all very sweet. That was my takeaway.
Let me say one thing, because like, you're definitely not us, right? You're an American. You're like a second generation American. You don't know what we've went through, Chris. But I'll say this. Something about like identity politics and just a cultural moment is like this, like not bifurcation, but this fragmentation of like humanity in this way that like is necessary for a certain compensation that's going on, recalibration, which is good. But it presumes that like other people and other groups don't feel alienation, and everyone feels alienated. Everyone around you, no matter how fucking cool, rich, happy, privileged, whatever they seem, feels horrible. Like most of the time. Well, he's obviously the worst. Like, I can get his.
But when he probably lives with an immense amount of like.
I'm sure he did.
Self-loathing and like.
I'm sure, and that it manifests itself in the ugliest possible ways. But like, literally, just any normal person that you feel like is happy probably is miserable. and the fact that like the way that things have to go to say that like. You'd have to kind of dehumanize other people in a way to recalibrate things, and you have to say that these people who are privileged don't feel alienated, and that's not true. And part of my goal for the movie was to say, like, you probably, if you're any self-respecting person or any type of woman watching the Eugene character in the movie, you probably have contempt for him and disgust for him, and you probably don't like him, even though it's funny. It can be farcical, but you probably don't like him. And could those audience members develop some feelings of like seeing themselves in that character, even though they don't like that person? And somewhere, I think there'll probably be a lot of men out there who see Jane character, the character Dasha plays, and don't really like her and feel like she's overly like, you know, like pitying herself or like creating problems that she puts onto others and something, and maybe they'll see themselves in her character too. So it wasn't like, you know, this isn't like some like medicine movie, like, you know, but I did want to engage with the structure and all that in an exercise to see whether I could challenge like a lot of these ideas of like, well, certain people don't feel alienated, or like we have contempt for this person so they're not human, you know. Yeah.
There's
sorry if that's too heavy.
Oh no, it's good. I'm curious. The relationship with you and Ravi in the film is also it's so well played. It's also hysterical. How did that all develop? I just thought that was such a great part. Those parts of the film like really clicked.
I had wanted to write something for a while about like a pickup artist type of character. That was sort of the initial idea we had for who could be like a companion for Jane, and that's not really who Ravi is, but he does have elements of that, like he negs her, and this like contemporary archetype tech bro person is sort of the model for Ravi.
And also, like, Vish, who plays the Ravi character, is, like, one of my favorite people and, like, just a great performer. And I just, like, could see really good spark. And, you know, we're all friends. Like, Dasha and Vish are friends. So I could just see really good sparks flying between them. And, well, they have, like, what I think is one of my favorite sequences, you know, like, right before the sex, well, whatever. Right before that, you know, they have these sequences, role plays. And, you know... well, anyway, he is a really complicated character, and I think I'm curious to see how audience will react to that, because, you know, there were people who were going wild in the theater yesterday during his part, and there were other people who were, like, gasping and going, like, you know, because it's like, because he's has a weird sensibility, and you know, Vish really pulled that off and did something special with that character. And it's not just like a cliche or some sort of like tech bro or like weird right leaning, like weird. It's something interesting and nuanced, and that's out there that most movies don't want to explore that character without vilifying. You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope that the way audiences see it is that they see that, you know, these are flawed characters, and I hope that they don't overreact in a way to some of the things that happen in the film. They look at it as like, these people are flawed as we are all flawed, right? Like, I mean,
I just want it to be, like, honestly, I want it to be, like, funny, and I want people to cry at the end, right? So, like, it should be, like, more or less entertaining, right? Like, if you're watching this and you're being like, oh my God, these characters, like, I can't watch another second or something, this movie's not for you. But, like, so far, I feel like it's for a lot of people. And, like, sounds like you're saying you really enjoyed it, Chris. And,
I did.
And your colleague, too. So I'm really happy about that. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being on the show. And I want to know what's next after this South by premiere.
I just moved to New York.
Well, no, Dasha, I think will have.
Keep acting.
Yeah, I hope people will see the film, and I think any director, producer out there who sees the film will recognize that Dasha has a really special talent, and will want to work with her. And, you know, hopefully you'll meet some people here at the fest. And I'm going to LA. I'm going to meet with a bunch of people afterwards, and hopefully get my next movie off the ground, which is be pretty different, which is, you know, a script that I've had laying around for a little bit that's, like, really important to me and feels more relevant than ever. It's a sort of political thriller, and I'm excited about that, and I hope that happens. And the film, I just, you know, we have people working to get it out into the world, so I hope there's the people who get it the way you get it, and then put it out there. That would be awesome, because it is a movie for audiences to see, to talk about, to laugh with, to laugh at, and to cry with, I think, too.
And I think that's, I mean, one of the things I think is so successfully done in the film is that it starts out with a character that you meet that you're kind of don't like in the beginning, and there's a definite turn, like, where the empathy that you feel for him, and the relatability. I just thought that was great that you were willing to go there, so to speak.
Do you think it's funny too, Chris? Do you think it's funny?
Yes. Oh, it's hilarious. Oh, it's absolutely hysterical. Yes.
Because you're like the first interview we had, and I'm like, I just want to. Is it funny?
No, it's absolutely funny. And
okay, cool.
So where can we find you, Dasha? Where can we find you on social media?
Oh, my Twitter is nobody_stop_me, and my Instagram is dash, like the first part of my name, -cam with an underscore.
Great. Eugene, and what about yourself? Are you?
Oh yeah, you can find my Instagram, Mad About Euge, EUG. But I have a website. I've made 4 movies before this one, so everybodyloves.me. That's my website. So
cool. Thanks again. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
It was a pleasure to speak with Eugene and Dasha. I really wish them a lot of success with the film. I know you're going to see them at another film festival. So truthfully, I'm actually on my way to another screening. So let's get out of here.